Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This is my first video actually that I've ever uploaded and I'm pretty excited to get into it, so let's do it. I'm going to be reviewing the hero Garrell, the new legendary. As you can see, they added this special summon. I really like what Awaken did with this guy, especially the special summon. As you can see, I'm pretty whaley. I did get him onto 5 ascension. It didn't cost as much as I thought it would, but I won't disclose any numbers. But yeah, I mean, this guy's great. To be honest, other content creators were talking about how whales were really losing utility. The more money they spent, the less worth it was to spend money. Obviously, I'm not at that point yet, but adding something like this is good for both whales and people who are free to play. Really like what they did with this hero. I really do. I think he's great. What I like to do, and I'm going to go over his abilities quickly because I'm sure you've seen it and you can look at it for yourself, but I like to look from the ultimate down because to me the kit synergizes that way. So here we have his ultimate. Grants attack up and defense pierce up 2 for 2 turns, deals 150% damage to an enemy. I do have all of these abilities maxed, and I do have all the glyphs. Gear isn't the greatest, not too much crit rate, but the crit damage is really high, so when he does crit, it's pretty telling as to what his potential is. So let's keep going through this kit. His special, when attacked, boosts lifesteal 50% and counterattacks with basic abilities, triggered up to once per round. This is going to come in extreme handy in really any sort of boss content, and where I've actually found him to be extremely useful is Guild Boss. So this is Red Affinity, which would be neutral for him, and I'm going to showcase a run with him in a second here, but he actually ends up doing more damage than Natalia or Ciara or really anyone else I've plugged in, strictly because, one, his counterattack has huge lifesteal potential with William, and two, he actually gets attacked by the boss, so he counters once a turn and gets that lifesteal, and then obviously since it's Red Affinity we're going to use William, and the basic attack gets boosted 80% because of William's trait. So, much like a lot of other heroes in this game, there's great synergy, and to me that's one of the best things about this game, is that you can find so many different combinations with champions, and that, to me, that is a lot of the fun in the game. So his basic attack deals 100% damage to one enemy, 20% more if the target has a positive effect. Pretty much every boss is going to have some sort of a positive effect, so his damage potential is just increased there. And then of course the passive, or the trait, grants 2 rage at the start of the battle. Each attack grants 1 rage. This includes counterattacks, so that is nice. So again, in Guild Boss he's going to be building towards this state more quickly. And then he removes all negative effects and activates Azura State for 2 turns, where he's dealing more damage based on his max health. Now, I haven't really built him for health. I do have some gear that has some health rolls along with crit rate and crit damage, etc. But ultimately, I am focused on attack. I'm not exactly sure if that's the best way to do it, but I've still noticed, regardless, with this 15k health, 4k attack, in the Azura State, he's putting down massive amounts of damage. So, ultimately, we'll have to see. But for now, I'm just going to showcase him the way I have him built. Maybe I will try to put a little more crit rate on him before we dive in, but I'm just going to try to show the damage potential and really where he's useful. And I've heard some people talking about how he's too niche and that legendary should be usable in more areas. I actually think while he is quite niche, and if you look at the ratings, which personally I wouldn't put too much stock in, I mean, people believe he's good in a lot of areas. I do too. I think in Arena he's good at burying those tanks, especially Mythasia, because he has that bonus. A lot of the times against these tanky teams, they're set up in a way that Mythasia can just revive everyone, and then it's almost impossible to win. So he's a decent counter to that. Obviously, I mean, No Man's Land in general, fairly easy. Tulpa, amazing. I'm going to showcase him in Tulpa. So before I get into any sort of gameplay with him, I just want to show more specifically the gear set that I have on him. So obviously, as I said, crit rate isn't as good as it should be. I could do things to maximize it, but for the sake of the showcase, I wanted to go really high crit damage and show what he could do when he crits. So you'll see that in the Armored Incursion. I also have him in Cursed. Every time he gets the bonus attack, not only is he laying down really solid damage, he's building his rage towards Azura. And the earlier you can get that, especially because I have him 5 Ascended, which I wouldn't expect many people to have, you do get that bonus turn. And he does build his rage while in Azura, so that bonus turn makes it so that when he expires his Azura, it'll come back almost within the next turn or two, especially with all the counterattacks, etc. So he is really an interesting champion, and I look forward to showcasing him to you guys. So the first showcase is going to be Armored Incursion. As I stated, it is red, so he's neutral, and all of these 3 are positive. He works extremely well alongside William, just because of the counterattack, which actually gives him 2 counterattack and 2 rage building towards Azura. And if he's in Azura, obviously it'll do even more damage, and he'll still be building rage for the next Azura state. So now that I've explained the strategy that I'm going to use with Garrell, let's just skip ahead to the turn, not waste any more time, and then I'll skip to the end and show you the damage. So the second round has begun. We're going to place the counterattack on everybody. This is going to ensure that he gets Azura, because he gets 2 at the start. He already countered once, so that's 3. He already attacked once, so that's 4. 2 more, which he will counterattack twice here, is going to get him Azura. He's going to get the bonus turn because of Ascension. Which is a nice added bonus if you can get him ascended. Obviously that's pretty difficult to do, especially if you're free to play, but I'll showcase him maxed, and I can vouch for him unmaxed because he still was doing significant damage without this bonus turn. So here we go. We're just going to start with the basic to get him into the state. So here comes the attack. He's going to counter. Everyone's going to counter. He's actually going to double counter. And as a result, he gets the bonus turn as well as Azura. Rage Aura, Ultimate. So that may not have looked like the largest amount of damage, but over time with all the counterattacks and the Azura, I mean, he is a very potent damage dealer, and I'll show you the statistics at the end comparing him to Ciara and Natalia, both of which are actually geared in higher crit rate, and they obviously have the affinity bonus. So I'm going to skip to the end, and we'll see you then. So we're just now wrapping up. As you can see, we got to level 26, which I actually think is a record for me, and we're just going to look at the statistics. One thing that I've noticed is that he actually ends up dying last because his counter gives him that lifesteal ability, which, again, sustainability on damage dealers in this game is pretty difficult, but Garrell does actually a pretty fantastic job sustaining himself. So now looking at the damage report, it's easy to see why I'm excited about this guy. Almost double the damage of Natalia without any sort of an affinity bonus. He lasted longer. The sustainability is unbelievable with the lifesteal and with the counterattacks. So yeah, I guess the next thing to do would be show you in Tulpa what he can do. I was actually unable to do Tulpa 12 until I got him, which could be a fault of my own because I obviously had the roster to do it, but Garrell made it easier. So the next thing we're going to showcase is Garrell in Tulpa 12. Obviously, I have a lot of heroes. There wasn't really an excuse for me not to be able to do Tulpa 12 without him. But in terms of consistency and speed, he makes the runs much, much better. So the lineup I'm using is him, Valeria, Auroch, and Zitlin. I am considering replacing Auroch with Hector once I fully build him out, but I just pulled him and I don't know exactly how I would speed tune him. So we're just going to go with those 4, and I'll show you how Garrell makes it just so much better. And before I actually show you Tulpa, I just want to show you some of the gear that I have on. So speed is probably the most important thing when you're trying to construct a speed team, because you need everyone to be synergized. So in the case of this team, I just need Auroch to go before the boss, because we need him to hit before Zitlin's curse multiplies, essentially. So I've found that 117 is good enough. I'm not sure exactly what the requirement is for Tulpa 12. If someone has the exact number, you can share it in the comments, but 117 has been good enough as the bottom. Obviously he's the slowest, and then I have Valeria built in high speed so that she can go just after Zitlin, but she can also clear the waves first without anyone else using their abilities. So we're just going to hop in, and I'm going to show you exactly how Garrell is extremely powerful in Tulpa 12. So now we're just going to see what this team can do. Obviously the first two waves we want Valeria clearing. So hopefully she takes care of wave 2 just as easily. Pretty much. So now we get to see what Garrell can do to Tulpa.
Do you know who I am?
He's going to use his ult. Fortunately he crits. So you can see huge damage there. And with Zitlin's curse, we really only need Tulpa to be around 40-ish%. Because once he goes under 50, he's going to place that shield, which also is part of this tally.
The ritual has...
So Garrell gets a bonus attack that's actually going to proc Zazura. Even though he's not critting, which is obviously just the fault of my gear, he's still putting out more than enough damage. So he puts up the boulder shield, one attack, he's going to get a counter, which brings it down even more. And now he's dead. So as you can see, Garrell has extreme utility in Tulpa, which to me is an important dungeon, regardless of whether or not it gives you the best gear in the game. I think it is an important dungeon to have down. And I'm aware that not everyone is going to have this ascension, not everyone's going to have Zitlin or even Valeria. I'm more than capable of making guides that are more free-to-play friendly. If that's something that you guys want, just ask in the comments and I can, you know, make really any sort of guide that people need. Gonna look at the damage just to compare. Zitlin was fantastic. So as you can see, Garrell is hanging in there with everybody. Now he is doing AoE damage on his ultimate. He's doing no AoE damage. Granted, he did get the counterattacks against some of the adds, and then a lot of this damage is coming from waves. But in terms of damage dealt to Tulpa himself, Garrell, despite not critting every time, still outperformed Auroch. And to me, he's probably the best single target damage dealer that exists in the game, for fire at least, and definitely the best damage dealer for Tulpa against the boss. I also want to mention that for people like myself who spend money on the game, and also for people who don't spend money, I think that the way they implemented this hero was actually fantastic. Because not only do you have the option to have a higher chance to summon him, but they also added many rewards in this Fire Slam mode. A lot of free-to-play people won't have a problem clearing these stages, and there are some really good rewards you can get. As you can see, I've already bought a few of them. So I think in terms of Awaken's trajectory, this update has been fantastic. It has kind of reinvigorated me to play and to spend a little bit of money to get Garrell, test out a new champion. But yeah, that pretty much does it for the video today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. It's my first video. Obviously I'm not very experienced, so it's going to be a learning process, but just let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or suggestions or even any requests for future videos. Thank you guys.